High strength advantage of steel as a structural material. If you see the high strength of steel per unit weight means that the weight of structures will be small. This fact is of great importance for long span bridges, tall building, structures situated on poor foundations. Uniformity. The properties of steel do not change appreciably with time as to those of a reinforced concrete structure. Elasticity. Steel behaves closer to design assumption than most materials because it follows Hooke's law up to fairly high stresses. The moments of inertia of a steel structure can be accurately calculated, while the values obtained for a reinforced concrete structure are rather indefinite. Here we will talk about permanence of steel. If you see steel frames that are properly maintained will last indefinitely. Research on some of the newer steels indicates that under certain conditions, no painting maintenance whatsoever will be required. So if you could see the steel frames that are, if you are properly maintaining it, it will be lasting for long. So research on some of the newer steels indicates that under certain conditions, even no painting also required, maintenance also not required. Ductility. If you see the property of a material by which it can withstand the extensive deformation without failure under a high tensile stress is called ductility. When a mild or low carbon steel member is being tested in tension, a considerable reduction in cross section and a large amount of elongation will occur at the point of failure before actual fracture occurs. A material that does not have these properties is generally unacceptable and is probably hard and brittle. It might break if subjected to a sudden shock. In structural members, under normal loads, high stress concentrations develop at various points. So the ductile nature of the usual structural steel enables them to yield locally at those points, thus preventing premature failures. A further advantage of ductile structure is that when overloaded, their large deflections give visible evidence of impending failures, sometimes joking refers to as a running time. So this is important point. We need to understand that ductility means the material will undergo extensive deformation before it gets failure because of this high tensile strength, and in the cross section also it will get reduced, and the large amount of elongation can be noticed. And this kind of ductility behavior is desirable because it will give some visible evidence if some impending failure is going to happen by showing the large deflections. So this property is very important property because structural members undergo under normal loads, it can go high stress concentrations, right, at some various points. So this is one important desirable property. Material that does not possess this property is not acceptable usually. That's most probably that would be a brittle material that would break if subjected to a sudden shock. If sudden load is applied, that will break. Additions to existing structures. Steel structures are quite well suited to having additions made to them. New base or even entire new wings can be added to the existing steel frame buildings, and steel bridges may be often widened. So the point here is that we can add some additional structure to the existing structure. So steel structures are quite well suited to have additions made to them. So that means we can have any extension of the existing structure, so we can add some additional base and some new wings also we can add it to the existing frames. And steel bridges also we can widen it after designing it suitably. Toughness. Structural steels are tough, that is they have both strength and ductility. A steel member loaded until it has a large deformation will still be able to withstand large forces. This is very important characteristic because it means that the steel members can be subjected to a large deformations during fabrication erection without fracture, thus allowing them to be bent, hammered, sheared, to have holes punched in them without visible damage. The ability of material to absorb energy in large amount is called toughness. So this is very one important thing is that ability of a material to absorb energy in large amounts is called toughness. Toughness means it can absorb large amount of energy. That's the material ability. That's very important characteristic. Steel members, when they can be subject to large deformations during the fabrication and erection without fracture. So structural steels are tough means that is have both strength as well as ductility. Then miscellaneous, several other important advantages of structural steels are as follows. Ability to be fastened together by several simple connection devices including welds and bolts. Adaptation to prefabrication, speed of erection. Ability to be rolled into a wide variety of sizes and shapes as described in the section. Possible to reuse after a structure is disassembled, and scrap value even though not reusable in its existing form. Steel is the ultimate recyclable material.